Okay, so today we are going to go over the different body types that, well, are with the human body. Now, though we all have the same skeletal structure, our body shape is determined by our activity. How much are you exercising? How much are you eating? Do you live a sedentary lifestyle, in which case that you are sitting around a lot, or do you lead a lifestyle that is seeing you constantly move about? All of these things and genetics help determine what body shape that you're actually dealing with. So right here I have drawn multiple human bodies, or rather multiple basic-shaped skeletons, and we're going to build on top of these to do this lesson. So what we have already is generally the standard that is the healthiest. Everything, all the muscle is, quite lean, nothing's too bulging. We're not really taking fat into account. So these body types are going to show us what happens when you go in the opposite extremes. So for this one, right here, go ahead and label this the American standard. Now, we are a first world country, but because of that, we do have an issue with some obesity. Our standard is not what you see in the movies. So the neck and shoulders are still going to work the same way. But you're going to notice that I'm already not putting nearly as much definition into the pectorals like I did with our original model. And this is going to continue all the way down here. Notice the roundness I'm putting into this. Now, it's not to say that there is no muscle, but this is saying that there's not nearly as much definition as we saw in that last one. There is a reason why we are called fat, lazy Americans. Now, even with this increased mass, we are still going to taper towards our joints. So there's our legs. Remember, the key point here is less definition. Does that mean no muscles? No, because everyone has muscles. It just means that you're not going to see the gun show if you flex your arms. Now, what I have here is a printout of my drawing, so I can erase the skeleton form underneath. But make sure as you get these done that you do erase your basic shape skeleton. Especially as by the end of the week, I expect us to be drawing closer models. And there you have it, the American standard. Now, what happens then if we, say, go further than that? And that's where we get to our next guy here. The trucker. Now the trucker has something of an almost gorilla-like build. And part of that is we are still going to get definition, like it did with the first body we ever did. But the definition is really only in the top part of the body. So as we taper toward joints, we're still getting some of those angles. Because generally someone in this type of body type does enough work up top to keep some definition. It's here where I see the change. Now, with the American standard, you already saw a lack of definition in the pectorals. This time, we now have a stomach that is getting in the way here. So the pectorals, lacking definition, are going to start kind of sitting on top of your abdomen. Now, the lower legs can see development. Not as much as the first body, but you'll still see more than, say, the American Standard over here. Now, this is also a bill that you'll see with some football players, especially if they work on the defensive line. Like so. So, okay, well, this one has definition in the arms and legs. And a lack of definition in the chest and abs. So now we're going to go to the next stage of that, and it's when we have no definition whatsoever. And this one is a body type I like to call the sumo. Now, named for those Japanese wrestlers of some acclaim. At this point, we are now lacking all definition. The body naturally has a curve to it, but now we're going to be looking at something that's nothing but curves. And the first sign of that is, notice how with the neck we have everything tying into what would essentially be where the sternum would be. Here, we're just going to slope out. Now, the more mass you have, the more gravity is going to weigh on your body. So in this case, we're now going to start seeing kind of underarm, kind of that skin flap you see on some people. You're also going to notice how, though yes, the body still tapers, you're not going to really notice it as much unless someone is actually trying to flex. Look at all that space between the skin and the bone here. It only gets worse. Now, up here, with the trucker, we had that the pectorals kind of rested on top of the stomach. Well, now they are even sagging more. We've now reached a point where the abdomen, or rather the stomach, is starting to eclipse your pelvis. So in some cases, you won't even see someone's waistline because of the immense amounts of mass they have there. So little to no definition. Keep that in mind. And voila, right there we've gone over 3 of the body types. And we've only gotten 8 minutes into this. So, let's go in the opposite direction of that. So, let's say that you do take good care of yourself. So you might have, and this is what my professors used to call it, the beefcake model. In which case, you're going to have more definition. And just generally bigger muscles. Now, when you develop your muscles enough, they actually, yes, start to grow out and become easier to squish together. That's why you see people having like a lot of these layers when they try to flex their arms. Now, the bodybuilder is probably the point where the muscles might be starting to get a little too defined. Because yes, there is such a thing as too much definition. If you've ever seen an actual bodybuilder, they can actually look really gross. Like, think of movie stars like, say, Hugh Jackman, or really just any of the guys that get buff for the Marvel movies. And you'll notice that, they have veins popping out, Lots of muscle definition. And the beefcake is pretty much on the cusp of that. It is there, but it's a little too close to where the muscles are going to start becoming a hindrance. Now I'm going to be using a lot sharper curves here, and there'll be a few extra lines, because when you develop your muscles, you're not growing a bunch of new ones. You're really just putting more weight on the ones you already have. So what happens is that they start to just curve on top of one another. This is where your 6-packs and your 8-packs really start coming out, because now the muscles are just folding on top of one another, trying to keep everything fit in one place. Now, is it possible to get more than an 8-pack? Yes. But really just seeing the standard muscles just pile on top of each other. And there is a point where that becomes very unhealthy. So there's that. Now, let's say that you've taken your muscle training a little too far on it. You're, chopping down on protein powder. Every day is game to clock time. This is when we get into this, I guess I'm calling this the penultimate model we're going to be going over, the Hulk. And the Hulk is what you really see those massive bodybuilders do. This is the point where your muscles are now starting to cut off your ability to move. The huge pecs, the huge biceps, triceps, all that, lots of definition, lots of extra lines. But even this little flap of skin back here that, it connects your trapezius, connects your arms and chest together, yeah, even that is becoming so developed that just the ability to put your arms to your side becomes impeded. And make sure you're not just putting circles around it. Like, actually do those angular curves. Actually go into how your elbow kind of gets swallowed by your own muscle here. Now at this point, there is not much actual fat left in the body. Huge calves. And though it looks like the hips are kind of wide, and they are, that's really because now you're running out of room in your own body for your own muscles. So, lots of definition. But impeded flexibility. And finally, what I got over here. Now, what happens if, say, now you are still doing the exercise, but you're really just losing weight, you're not trying to develop muscle? Maybe you're even starving yourself at times, increasing your metabolism, but not giving your body anything to run off of. And this is where you get to the thin man. Now, compared to, let's say, the American Standard, the Trucker, the Sumo, the Hulk, the Beefcake, where all these you are curving out, this is when we're going to get concave. We're curving in. At this point, you can really start anywhere here. Everything is thinner. There might be some definition in the arms, but that's really, you are looking at people that are the skin and bones variety. Not a lot of definition. And you're going to start seeing gaps in the legs that weren't there before, because now you don't even have the fat or muscle mass to really keep everything looking like it's supposed to fit one together. You're going to notice that the joints start to stick out more. So let's call that prominent joints. And everything just kind of curves inward. This is essentially some third world country malnourishment. This is what happens when people are bulimic, for example. So in terms of health, this is good enough. This is a good place to stop. You can live with this. You're gonna die. You're gonna die, or you're gonna turn from this into this, because the body cannot tolerate all this muscle all the time unless you are training every day into your old age. Because I can tell this right now, for those of you that see this form and go like, oh yeah, that's me right now, that's what I'm gonna be, keep this in mind. Once you reach a certain point in your aging, your body is going to start losing the muscle mass naturally. Which means all that skin that's holding in your muscles, it's going to start sagging. So you'll look kind of like this guy anyway. Or worse, you'll look like a cross between this guy where you have hanging skin, but this guy where you don't have the muscle mass to fill in that skin. Not a good time. So along with this, I'm going to put in a copy of the original drawing itself, so you can copy the body types at home. For those of you that will be in class, you got to draw your own. Sorry, tough luck. And with that, tomorrow we'll go into drawing more actions, and then Wednesday we're going to be putting clothing on our models. Good luck. Have a good day.